Okay, so in this video we are going to build an electrolyzer. This is a device which splits off water into hydrogen and oxygen. For this I made some print files. This will be the main housing. In this and this slit will the electrodes go into. The one in between is for a piece of cloth, which will act as a membrane to separate both the gases, because otherwise we could get an explosive gas mixture. Thus I'm going to use two frames which are going to sandwich the piece of cloth, just to make it easier to fit it into the gap, because I've struggled with that in the past. So here in the back are two holes. Those are for the wires which are going to connect to the electrodes. Those two holes are for the gas output pipes. You maybe know, and those slopes here are to direct the gas flow into those holes. Might be wondering why those holes are on the bottom. That's because that's actually the top. It will be installed this way around, just because I need a solid connection between the piece of cloth and the bottom for the gases to not mix. Not the bottom, between the cloth and the top, so the gases don't mix. So it's just easier to install it this way and then just turn it around. And this is the lid. I'm not sure if those triangles are necessary. Just have them here because in the design before that I didn't have that rim. So those were the only thing making that slip into place. But now with the rim I'm not sure if that's even needed. I'm not super familiar with how tight of tolerances my printer can handle, so I'm not 100% sure if that's going to fit. First try of I'm going to need to reprint it, but we're going to see that, not me, but you are going to see that in a second, me probably in a few hours. So yeah. It fits on there. It also comes off again somehow, even if this is pretty hard to pry back off again without breaking anything. So now the first step we should do is put in the what they call air hoses or whatever we could call it, because I might, if I push it in too far, I might need to take a drill and push it down into that hole down there to drill off the front of the hose in order to make the air being able to flow in there properly. I haven't cleaned it up well enough. It's some bits of motion. Oh well. That will be the first step. Second step would then be to glue the membrane, to put the membrane in and seal it off with silicone. And then we will probably already need to let it dry before putting in the electrode. Yes, although I could maybe also directly put in the electrodes. I'm not completely sure about that. We will see that in a second when I do it, I'm guessing. Now this is the tooling I will be using. Here you can see the other one I made, which doesn't fit because the rounds were too tight for it. Like this thing, the membrane, called membrane, is just a piece of cloth. Doesn't fit in there really much. The electrodes did fit in there, but one of them only went on halfway. The other one went on fully. Other hit was at least the one before that, now kind of destroyed. Yeah. There's like still silicone on one side and it kind of acts like a jaw. Funny. Okay, so now we come off some length of this tubing outside. This seems good. And then we just do this a second time. Now we got this. Now we just push those in here. If it fits, yeah, it fits. And if it fits, you can actually see what's going on. We just shove this in there. Gotta make sure that we only shove it in point where it does not log in the inner hole. Like when I shove it in all the way, I can, yeah, like this is not supposed to happen like this. But to take back out again, we're gonna put a tiny bit of silicone into that already to isolating it. We just a tiny bit of silicone around this. I use a piece of a broken oversized pencil sharpener, kind of roll around there as I don't wear gloves right now. Don't want to get a bunch of silicone on my fingers. Now, tip of this is coated in silicone. Now I can shove that in here again. Like this. Then it doesn't cover the inner hole. Then just put some more silicone around the piece, which is still on the outside. Okay, push some of it underneath there. And some of it above there. I'll put on the glove real quick so I can properly get out the right positions here without getting my hands all okay. I'm not sure how to say that. Okay, that seems about good. I'll be just repeat that with the other length of tubing. Like I said, I use a piece of broken giant pencil sharpener to spread that on here. Alright, but it has that rounding that makes it easy to carry this in the appropriate sized layer. I should put a bit more on the front though. But it's important to make sure tube isn't like filled on the inside. Does this just happened? Yeah. But I can just shove something down there. Spreading the silicone out against the inner walls. Making so there's no that the air can flow through it freely. Should have probably moved the holes further to the inside. Get a bit more room for we can inside of the thing, but that's not really important. I'm going a bit away from the camera in case I don't shoot a minute. So this should be good now. Now we turn it a bit downward. Okay, this should be good now. Now the next thing we will do is as well, I'm going to quickly check if the sunlight makes it easier to see inside of here. It does, you can somewhat see the incline, I think. Let me take photos really quick before I put in all the stuff and close it off. Okay, so now this thing should go inside of here. And we then need to use silicone in order to... Okay, so now we need to put a sealant on to the plastic around the membrane in order to make it so that no gases will be able to leak past it. With it first, we take it back out. Now rub some stuff across it, so it will later in the right position. Need to put this like really down there and on the side. we push this on here. Already get some of the seal in the right places now. Take like a tube, this is like from a pen. The tube where the ink is stored inside. Use it to kind of put the silicone to the right positions. Especially we need to take it away from here where the electrodes are going to go, because you can see on the way that inside. Often that's not good. Also we need to like all the way down in there. Can really feel that now. We need to kind of rub up. Now we need to take the thinner to get it back out of the point where it wasn't supposed to go. Maybe this thing will do. No, it's still not. It's still too thick. Either we try to clean this out of here now, or we just stick the electrodes in like right now and say we don't give a fuck. That's the two options now. I'm guessing I'm going for the electrode option. Just need to clean us out if we come off the room up here. The gap in between there was maybe a bit too thin. Okay, look. It's starting to rain, and I got some of the silicone into the fibers of the. That could be a problem, possibly. I'm not sure. but we should put in the electrodes now before I screw it up even more. So those are the electrodes. The wires just held on there with right now. Need to do another test if it's still conductive or not. After the silicon inside the piece has dried for a few days, you can smear silicon into the rim of the and glue it on. And with the lid being sealed on there, this thing is essentially done, the main body. We will still need to make some tanks to collect the gas though, but that is time as the new silicon also needs to dry now.
Ich sichere mich ab.
3, 2, 1, starte.
So now to test this electrolyzer, we have connected both the outputs together, then put them into some soap bubbles so we can collect some bubbles. So we then just turn on a bench supply and collect up some of those. This could take a bit. So now if some of this has collected, we can light this stuff up. I should get a help pop from it. And the wax if has collected some. It might not work at first because there's still some normal air in those pipes, so you might have to do it a few times until it actually explodes.
Lass doch mehrere Bubbles.
Yeah, but then should give off a nice explosion, which can reach about 3,200 degrees, I think it was. Not completely sure about that number.
Quick side note, I looked it up, it's actually 3,800 degrees.
Anymore. Yeah. Fun. Especially for Sylvester, so you don't need to buy those, what are they called? Those, I don't know.
Silvester Rocket.
Yeah, but that's something else. I don't know. So, it seems to work. Really fine. Even though it still leaks a bit. I will need to fix this later. For that we just...
How is he living?
For that we just heat this with a lighter and then gotta smooth it out with a spatula or just a knife. And that's
So incredible.
okay.
So the test you have just seen has about proven that this thing produces the gases it's supposed to produce. But we also need to check that they're not mixing already inside of here. So we have now disconnected the two hoses again and are going to collect bubbles from them individually. And if everything goes after plan, then if I try to light them, those should do like absolutely nothing and just pop. And those should like give small pops but not an explosion. So let's turn it on. I've already purged the lines of the normal air, so we can now just see what the product of the reactions do. No. Okay, so now this just stuff doesn't do anything. Try to light it, but this just pop. It's just nothing. This one was just a small pop. But no big explosion. At least not something close to what we saw with both gases mixed in this record amount of bubbles. So this thing is now about proven to work, at least a bit. One thing we should also check is how much voltage it needs for its current raw. As only we can see at my maximum voltage amperage at 9.5 amps, it pulls 17 volts. So let's just turn it down and see how it correlates. At around about 8 amps it takes 15 volts. On about 7 amps 13. On about 6 is 11. Now at 4 is 8. Around about 3 is 7. Around about 2 is 6 volt. And around about 1 is 0.4 volts. If we limit by voltage, should we be able to see when it starts to conduct? Is right about at 2 volts. That's not the best we could be doing, but it's not very bad either. This cell is pretty slow in its production rate. Because I can only give it 9.5 amps, and because it only uses two electrodes, most ones you would find commercially use a stack of electrodes, where only the most outer ones are powered. The ones in between aren't, which, like, if you only added one more electrode to here, our output per amperage would be double. It will also be much more complicated to separate the gases. This is definitely something I will do in the future. So this thing is going to be way more useful if you're collecting the gas over a longer time period. If you're powering it with something like a mini solar panel, which I do have one of those. So this will probably be the next thing I will do. And just figure out some way to collect the gas. Maybe just with a garbage bag like I did with the wood gasifier. Or maybe like a beach ball. Although giant beach balls are expensive. Maybe a gymnastics ball where I just ram the fitting into. Or maybe one of those things which is like this thing where you got water and then just inside it, which can be filled with gas and integrated out of the water, or something like this. I'll think about it. But for now, this thing seems to be finished. Also, I'm not completely sure if I've mentioned what electrolyte I'm using. This is just normal distilled water, which I added a package of baking soda to. I would have liked to use stronger electrolytes like calcium hydroxide, but this stuff is pretty acidic and would have dissolved this plastic like my electrolyte is made of, so I couldn't really use that. Yeah, before I forget it, if you got any ideas how to improve this thing right here, or how I can collect the gas when I hook it up to a solar panel, small one, or how I can make a bigger one, which is more useful for directly making the gas when you need it, please leave them in the comment section. Also, if this video was interesting to you, please consider giving me a like for the algorithm and sharing the video with someone who might also be interested in it. I hope this was interesting, and I hope that you like it. Until the next time.